Did you know your business can honor God while transforming lives around the world? Welcome to the IBM Biblical Entrepreneurship Show, the weekly podcast that inspires and equips Christian entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that glorify God and uplift impoverished communities. At IBM, our mission is built on the three fish metaphor. Give a fish. We provide startup loans to launch businesses. Teach to fish. We offer entrepreneur training for lasting growth, equipped for discipleship. We empower discipleship to multiply impact. Join IBM's founder Steve Adams as he shares powerful solo episodes and expert interviews filled with mentorship insights and real-life stories of how biblical entrepreneurship is advancing the Great Commission. Subscribe now and get ready to be inspired, equipped, and empowered to make an eternal impact.
Talk about just the efficiency of the local church versus a governmental agency in delivering these kinds of solutions, and the efficiency and effectiveness versus those traditional solutions that I think a lot of people are very cynical about.
Yeah. I'll answer from my perspective, and then Scott can chime in.
Yeah.
The local church is relational.
Mm-hmm.
They know the effect of local church is relational. They know the mayor, the county commissioner, other church members, leaders. And so in the end, there's this network of those who want to serve to make their communities better. And you can define better. Is it safer?
Yep.
Is it business growth? Is it protectionism? Whatever that is, they're very efficient with it. The challenge is a lot of these small churches, as Scott mentioned, deal with church services. Wednesday is a big deal, but they don't have the wherewithal, the resources to expand beyond that.
Right.
And that's kind of our goal to help them. But the local church beats the government every time, and it's proven.
Mm-hmm. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at efficient, most of in my world where you're doing grants, funders want data.
Yep.
And they want research. Most churches don't have data. I was a senior pastor, so if you would
don't have
ask,
time to create it.
well, but this is if you ask me how many people were there on a Sunday morning, depending on the pastor, you might get a different answer. And we can joke, and do we exaggerate? A lot of pastors exaggerate, and I'm guilty. I don't blame. But when you are going after funding in a competitive environment, people can poke holes in there were 500 people there on Sunday morning argument. You need to have concrete data, and most churches don't have that. That said, in terms of efficiency financially, churches are way more efficient because they're used to not working off of government money. They have to be efficient to survive.
Yep.
So cost per unit, churches are going to bring volunteers. They're going to be way more efficient. We also know, and it's like a core tenet. In fact, the gentleman that trained me how to write grants, I'm a Christian. He was happy to train me, even though he's Jewish. Because he knew, and he was happy to work with churches because he knew, and it's kind of like the thing, he knew that certain services, secular groups cannot compete with faith groups when it comes to change.
Right.
And he wasn't a Christian, so he didn't necessarily relate it to Jesus like I would, but he viewed it as, that higher power, as they would say. That there's something there that when it comes to behavioral change, faith groups are way more efficient, especially when it comes to things
and effective.
Effective, getting results. When it comes to recovery, when it comes to things like human trafficking, when it comes to violence prevention, the data is there where it's been researched, but it's an area that's under researched, and I think it's an area that we're NTN is working on that. When we have people that work with us that are interested in really helping to give develop the data that's needed to get funding, it is going to be in process. I believe the data will there, and based on just practical experience and what I've seen, faith groups are way more efficient, and people that are not ideologues, but they come approach it with a real heart to change these issues in society, like
Hmm.
homelessness and really hardcore issues. They're willing to take it on. It's not a right or left issue.
Right.
It's not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a life or death. It's a, heaven or hell. It's a major thing. People that are looking for real solutions know that some of these problems need all hands on deck. And it would be silly for anybody that wants to see their city change to reject help from the church or any organization that's
Right.
willing to help.
Yeah. Well, and people are in the church are indwelt by the Holy Spirit. They have passion and conviction out of their calling to make a difference. And I went to a libertarian undergrad university, so you don't need to work hard to convince me that private is always better than public. But this is it's really cool because it's a public-private partnership is what you guys are bridging in a sense. Because no individual church probably has the resources to access these types of grants. They don't have the expertise. And so that's a huge bridge that you guys are solving. What's interesting, when I was part of a church plant in 2006, and we called it Bridge Bible Church because we wanted to build bridges into the community, and we set up a community development corporation right from day one. We were and part of our missions budget was going to local service organizations. And so we kind of had the idea of what you're doing, but we didn't have access to the resources. How does churches that think like this, how do they find you, and how do they connect with CityServe to kind of start to access the kind of resources that you guys are creating for churches?
Let me address that.
Hmm.
One of the things we transitioned from that F2F program is a gift in kind program.
Hmm.
So we have big agreements with the big box stores, Home Depot, Walmart, etc.
Hmm.
And so we've created technology that the local church can actually. We have it set up either a hub where we have a lot of the furniture in the pod. The pod is the church, and so that local church then would be able to communicate with the hub. There's some of the needs we need, whether it be mattresses or furniture. We don't really deal with food,
Hmm.
but it's more housing asset type thing. And then the church would come and take these items away from the hub, go back into their community and give it away. A good example is, in February, we end up with a lot of Christmas trees, a lot of ornaments and stuff like that, or dog food. And the churches have become very self-reliant to be able to distribute that. And it's a way of giving back. So
Uh-huh.
we'll continue to do that. And then we're expanding upon that as well.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah, we have a website, ntngc.org. And that's a good place to start. I would say, depending on where your organization it's going to be a process to work with us. I'm real careful. We win the majority of the grants we write. And the secret to that success is we don't write everything everybody wants us to write. We're very selective in what we pick.
Yep.
And much of the battle on whether you're going to win or not is based on being grant ready, as
Hmm.
Dave Powell mentioned earlier. So you do need to spend some time to get ready. Grants are a competitive environment,
Hmm.
and you don't go straight from Pop Warner football to the NFL.
NFL, right?
We got to train, we got to get you ready. It's going to require a significant investment if you're going to compete for large dollars. So there's a few paths. And one path is to get involved locally as maybe a subcontractor for someone else. If you're serious about it and you're in a position where you have the budget to really go after and invest, then it's a bit of a process. But if you can get to a place where you have the infrastructure, you have you're registered on sam.gov, but you also have fiscal controls internally.
Hmm.
You have in place what you need to show a funder that you can manage $500,000 or $1 million.
Yep.
Experience in managing that. You have partners. They like to see collaboration with other partners in the community. If you are an organization that wants to do everything by yourself and everything's in-house, you may not be a good fit for a grant because they're going to want you to do something big that's going to require
Right.
partnerships in the
Yep.
community. And lastly, you do need a group like NTN. If it's not us, someone that you're going to probably need to invest in some sort of consultant to
Yeah.
come alongside of you to help you be strategic in planning out and and identify which grants to go after, which grants not to.
And Steve, I think that's key. A particular church has strengths and weaknesses,
Yep.
and they need to really look at what they're good at and play into that. And so Scott does a lot of consulting in that area, as well as making sure that they follow. Scott can provide that compliant. Are they compliant with the grant, the grant audit, all of that? Because it's more than a hand slap if you don't provide. And it's really, and it reflects on what Scott's doing at NTN.
Yeah, that's where it's helpful. You being a former pastor yourself, you can help them. So really, they just got to come to your website, connect with Scott or somebody on staff there, and start the process of engaging you as a consultant.
Yeah, we would do like a quick assessment
Yep.
to let them know, hey, we think that this is a fit or it isn't a fit, and I'm real cautious to not take money if I don't think I can help somebody
Right.
not ready for the journey. If what they do is, the government is looking for partnerships in certain areas. There's some things they won't do.
Mm-hmm.
You want the government to build a warehouse for you, they're probably not going to do that. Maybe you go through, maybe you could get some CDBG funding for it or some type of funding if you worked with your local city and are really connected there. But it's not a typical grant that we'd write. So depending on what you're looking for, they're not going to buy you a new church building. They're not.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to buy you 3 vans so you can take, build out your youth group. They're not interested in that per se. Any sort of benefit for a government grant is usually going to deal with some sort of issue in society.
Yep.
And any benefit that the church might have would be a byproduct of dealing with that society issue that the government's concerned about. And the amount of money that they throw at different problems varies based on the administration. I would, when you look at how bad human trafficking is, I would imagine the government would throw more money at that than they do. But they throw a lot of money at other issues. So you just got to, and it's seasonal. I did recently meet with the White House, and I was teasing the White House staff there to say, hey, because they were mentioning writing grants, and I said, well, if I wrote for defense contractors, I'd be pretty good this year.
Yeah.
That's what the focus is. It's the money shifted, and so so you follow the money, and as a grant writer, you're looking for where there's opportunities.
Right.
And
And Steve, if I could add, we NTN it's its own 501c3, its own CPA reviewed organization. So there's a big firewall there.
Yep.
CityServe has its own money, its own firewall there, so we don't mix funds at all, and that's really important to be able to manage money correctly, the distribution of that money for large donors, foundations, etc. So it's real legit.
So in wrapping up here, Dave, maybe you could talk about just your encouragement to people listening who are out there running businesses and how they can engage their faith with their business. And then, Scott, maybe you could give advice as a pastor talking to that same person.
That's good. Just from a business perspective, starting a business, running a business, being successful is very lonely. And it's lonely because so many families rely on you, not only for a paycheck, but just kind of some guidance in their life.
Right.
And once you've established that business, I personally have found I needed to be around like individuals who are giving back to building the community, giving back. Because usually the ability to meet payroll, you have skills that can advance beyond that. And a lot of business owners have established their business. They're getting bored, but what do you do after that? And that's why connecting with organizations like CityServe,
Mm-hmm.
other organizations, even local, are important, because it is lonely out there, but there's a lot of folks that can support you with that and help advance you and give you some guidance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
Scott?
Boy, yeah, on that topic, I would agree. And even as a pastor, it can be very lonely. And,
Well, you
being,
were an entrepreneur too, starting a church. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, being a leader, it can be tough. I found that before I was a pastor, I also served a pastor. I remember
Mm.
as a young man, I was an assistant to a pastor, and I remember in serving that pastor, um, in my prayer time, I'd see someone, that when you serve people, you notice their flaws, you notice the things you love about them, but you notice shortcomings. And the Lord taught me really quickly that the secret to serving was to keep my eyes on Jesus.
Mm.
I did it unto the Lord, not unto the man. And just like, David, served Saul who threw spears at him,
Yeah.
the idea of he wouldn't touch the Lord's anointed. He knew that if he viewed Saul as the Lord's anointed. And I realized that in serving another man of God, that if I did so with my eyes on the Lord, I would serve faithfully and I would make my decisions right before the Lord, no matter what that person did.
Mm.
That was a great lesson as a servant. And then after 13 years of pastoring, I remember going on a walk and just being in prayer, and the Lord reminding me of that same lesson, but instead of looking to my boss, I was looking to the people I was serving as a pastor.
Mm.
And the Lord said the same thing. You're not serving them because they're good people or they are not going to betray you or hurt you or all these things. You need to serve them like you'd serving me. And
Same in business too with customers. Yep.
that's right.
Yep.
You basically, if you serve the Lord in your service to others, you'll have the right heart. Otherwise, you just, pastor, you go through rejection every time someone leaves a church, and
Yeah. Right.
it makes
Yeah.
a mess and causes these things. Because really, protecting yourself from disappointment, I think, is important.
That's good.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that was the key. I think if I could give pastors, encourage you guys today you're not serving those people, you're serving the Lord.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. Thank you. And I guess to thank you guys for joining this summit.
You
Very helpful. And just everybody go to NTN. So Nancy, Tom, Nancy, G is in George, C is in cat.org. Learn about CityServe, give to CityServe, get involved in CityServe as a volunteer somewhere. And man, I knew a little bit about it, Dave, and we talked to you guys a couple of times before, and but I'm even more excited about it now because you're just setting up the church to be able to deliver key societal solutions.
love it, love it. And if they want to know more about CityServe itself, it's just cityserve.us.
Cityserve.us. Okay.
Yeah, that'll take it to everything we basically have talked about.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining
Thank
today.
you, Steve. Thank you so much. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to the International Business as Mission podcast, a space where we explore how to build businesses rooted in biblical principles that create global impact. But we're not just here to talk. We're taking action to spread entrepreneurship to poverty-stricken communities around the world. Our mission is to be the catalyst that empowers people to build sustainable livelihoods and break the cycle of poverty. We follow the 3 fish principle. 1, give a fish, providing startup loans to empower entrepreneurs. 2, teach to fish, offering entrepreneurial training for sustainable business practices. And 3, equip for disciple making, building a community that supports spiritual growth alongside business success. This is life-changing work, but we can't do it alone. We need passionate impact partners like you to join us on this mission by becoming a donor. Your generous gift will directly fund the establishment of new businesses that provide dignified work and hope. Just imagine your donation could help a single mother in rural Africa start a small farming venture that allows her to feed her children and send them to school, or a young man in Southeast Asia to launch a small business. Breaking the chains of generational poverty. This is the power of entrepreneurship as a force for good. Will you join us in unleashing it? Go to ibum.org now to start impacting lives through the transformative power of business as mission. Together we can create a world of flourishing.